Well, things are still very much silent on the Mariners front right now, so you've sent us some questions to keep us busy until hopefully something breaks. We'll answer a few coming up here on Mailbag Monday. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Monday, January 5th, 2026. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. My name is Dane Gonzalez, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Colby Patnode. We're two lifelong Mariners fans who've been covering the team for over half a decade, and today, for the first time in 2026, we're going to open up the mailbag like we do here every single Monday and answer some of your Mariners questions. But before we do, I want to shout out our title sponsor today, FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Kicking us off here on Mailbag Monday is Matthew, who wants to know, is there any chance Leo Rivas could get you a Luke Raley type bat like Jose Caballero did 2 years ago? Cabby, after the 24 season, and Rivas now have very similar profiles when you look at their age at the time, MLB at bats, and he's played as shortstop in MLB, WRC plus, club control, etc., etc., etc.
No. Yeah, Leo Rivas is not as good as Jose Caballero. I don't think, at least. In fact, when you look at the WARs in roughly the same number of at bats, Caballero is about twice as valuable as Leo Rivas. So Cabby's a better defender. He's a better base runner, better base stealer. And I think when you look at what teams want specifically from a utility kind of bench roll bat, they're going to prefer that over Rivas. Being able to switch hit over Rivas, probably better on base skills, I think you would say. Certainly makes more contact than Caballero does, but, I just don't see it. I think Cabby is just a significantly better player. I think most organizations look at their own org depth and be like, yeah, we probably have a Leo Rivas here already. We don't need to trade assets to go get this guy. So I would say probably not. But then again, I also would have said there's no shot you could get 5 years of Luke Raley for 5 years or 6 years of Jose Caballero when they made that trade. So I guess I can't rule it out entirely. But in general, no. I would be shocked if you could find Raley in his 130 WRC plus bat, whatever it was. Granted, only being 2/3 of a full-time player, but I'd be shocked if you can find a deal like that again. I don't know who that player is, quite frankly. I don't know. And also, like, if it is, and obviously this is getting nitpicky, but if it is like a Luke Raley type, it's like, don't you have that guy? Like a bunch of guys who hit righties, fine, but you don't want him hitting against lefties. That's like, do you want a strong side platoon guy right now, or do you want an everyday player type of guy? So maybe you live with it, Again, I certainly wouldn't be upset if they acquired another Luke Raley type to this roster and all it cost them was Leo Rivas, but I would say it's pretty darn unlikely.
Yes, it's hard to know because it's hard to know like how, like teams would compare these two guys, because I think, like you said earlier, like I think teams would go, well, Caballero's got better speed, better glove. He's got more stolen base upside than Rivas, but Rivas switch hitter. We like that. Probably better plate approach overall, better on base skills. It's more of a pain in the you-know-what at the plate than Caballero is, though Caballero also a little bit of a pain in the you-know-what at the plate as well. And, we know how much he frustrates opposing pitchers.
In the field and just in general.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like Caballero to me is like the Dylan Brooks of baseball. And there's like value to that. Yeah, no, it does. But for those of you that watch the NBA, like you know what I'm talking about here.
When Ty and I are hosting Locked On Sonics, I will eventually understand that reference.
Sure. Yes. Mm-hmm. Hire us for Locked On Sonics, by the way. At least me. Maybe not him, but definitely me.
You don't think I can become like an expert in NBA basketball which by the way should be called baskets ball, since there's two baskets and one ball. New girl fans know what's up. But yeah, what is Dylan Brooks? Who is Dylan Brooks?
Dylan Brooks, he's an instigator, right?
Oh, okay,
yeah. Yeah, and that's what Jose Caballero is. Like, he does a couple of things pretty well, but the thing that he does best is he annoys the hell out of the opposing team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's extra value added to that as well, and that's something that Rivas doesn't necessarily bring to the table. Like, he does annoy other pitchers, like by fouling off a bunch of pitches and taking close calls and all that, but like there's just a difference between.
Has he ever started a brawl?
Yeah, no. Has he had like Lucas Giolito crashing out on the mound, visibly crashing out on the mound? No.
Yeah, is it Garrett Cole throw a fastball like 20 feet over his head? Who's that supposed to scare? Has he had a left-handed reliever throw a punch at him at third base? No.
Yeah, no. So if I had to guess, I think teams would value Caballero more than Rivas, but I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Speaking of Caballero, he'd be a pretty good fit for this roster right now.
Yeah.
Might be available.
Luke Raley for Jose Caballero.
I'm just saying. Fan Fiction Friday, just saying.
Yeah. There you go.
Kind of makes sense. Makes a little bit of sense.
All right. Next question here from 82%. What would it take to move JP off of shortstop? Injury, hitting like 2025 demo, curse of the Etsy witches, something else, anything at all, or is it just a complete non-starter for 2026?
JP Crawford's the shortstop in 2026. He will be playing for a different team in 2027, and the Mariners are going to let that happen. And we should just accept that that's going to happen. Short of injury, there's nothing that's going to move JP Crawford off a shortstop. And because he's so good at drawing walks and he's got enough pop, it's basically impossible for him to be Dylan Moore, because he's just not going to strike out that much. So yeah, unless he does have a Dylan Moore like crash for over a couple months, they're not going to do it, because if they were going to do it, they would just do it last year too, because Leo Rivas is a better shortstop than JP Crawford. Most of the guys in the infield are better shortstops than JP Crawford, except for probably Jorge Polanco. So it's not going to happen. JP's going to be the shortstop. He's going to be the alternate captain in that clubhouse. And then the Mariners will wave a fond farewell to him after the season, and Colt Emerson will officially take over in 2027, I would assume. But no, JP is going to be the shortstop, and it's going to be frustrating at times. He'll also make a couple plays that you're like, oh, wow, that was actually a really good play, JP. And he's probably going to be 110 WRC plus, probably going to be a 2.5, 3-win player. Like, JP is going to be just fine. It's just the defense is going to annoy you at times, and you should just accept that for one more year.
All right, we will answer more of your questions in just a moment, but first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new. Boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect, right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour. Every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen for all things Mariners, and also thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Mariners with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonmariners.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Getting back after it here on Mailbag Monday, Aiden wants to know, how would you rank the Mariners off seasons from a process perspective since you started covering the team? Where would this off season rank, assuming no major additions before the start of the season? So to me, it comes down to for the top one, top off season in terms of process since we started covering the team, Colby, comes down to two off seasons. One, the off season where they decided to rebuild, and then 2021. The 2021-2022 off season.
Right. Keep in mind, Ty and I have been covering the team, or were covering the team before we joined Locked On, which was in August of 21.
Yeah.
So
you and I started writing together in 2018.
Yeah.
And that's when I joined Soto Mojo. Yeah.
Right. So in all those off seasons, my favorite from process and all that is 2021, 2022.
Yeah.
I have said this multiple times. That is the offseason they should try to have every year.
Yeah.
Like, that is the blueprint. It is spend a little bit in free agency on a player you really like, and then be aggressive on the trade market, go and get those bats on the trade market. And they kind of are doing similar-ish things right now. They still need that other bat, but this one is kind of similar to 2021. The process of deciding to rebuild and not trying to push it for one more year, I think that was the right call. So you got to give them credit there. I actually like their 2023 offseason heading into 2024. The Polo trade, the Raley trade, the Haniger, Robbie Ray trade, and all that. I thought that Gregory Santos, I thought that was a really solid process too. So this current offseason, as it stands right now, there are no major additions. It's not as good as 21, 22 that winter. It's not as good as 2018, 2019 offseason. The process isn't as good to me as the 2023, 2024 offseason. So I guess it would be fourth. It's kind of tough to blame them on the 2020 offseason just because.
Yeah, 2020, you're just trying to leave opportunities open for guys. Right. Yeah, the reason the 21-22 offseason is so good is because, they overachieved greatly in 2021. They won 90 games, and it's like, oh, wow, we've actually kind of expedited our timeline a little bit here. Let's go after it now. Like, we legitimately can go, in the drought in 2022, maybe even compete for a division. Who knows? Like, let's go for it. Let's go sign Robbie Ray. Let's, and they also tried to sign Kevin Gossman, and then they pivoted to Robbie Ray right before the lockout happened. And then they come out of the lockout. They trade for Jesse Winker and Eugenio Suarez. They traded for, Adam Frazier earlier, earlier on in that was in terms of just like the off seasons where they were adding, like, that is by far number one. There's a large gap between number one and whatever number two is to me. And then, 2019, 2018, 2019, when they decided to rebuild, I mean, that's what set them on this course to where they are now. Right.
Yep. Kind of hilariously, the only player they acquired that winter that ended up being anything for the Mariners is JP Crawford.
Yeah.
Jared Kelnick didn't work. Justin Sheffield didn't work.
Yeah.
Justin Dunn didn't work.
But it finally put like this plan in perspective. It started to pave the road towards where we are now.
It was a clear direction that they were heading instead of just kind of trying to occupy space.
And it finally became strictly Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollander's project, not we're trying to salvage what the last regime put together.
Right. We're trying to salvage the final moments of Cano, Cruz, Seager, and Felix.
Yeah.
I those two stand out. Again, if no other moves are made this winter, this would be a lower tier off season for me. It's great they got Naylor. It's great they got Ferrer. I like the Ref Snyder signing fine, but this team needs at least one more everyday bat. And this is in the context of like, hey, you almost went to the World Series last year. You could have won the World Series. They needed a 21-22 offseason. They needed to have that this winter, and they still could. They still might. But if they don't, then they fell short. And again, because of the context of like, hey, they in 2020, the winter of 2020, like obviously, we want to leave some spots open for the young guys. We're still a rebuilding team. They didn't know they were going to win 90 games in 2021. So you can't really blame them for not going out and adding the extra pieces in 2020 to push them to 95 wins because that was unforeseen. 20 was an overachievement. So I think when you look at it relative to context and all that, I would say this offseason C, like a C result so far. Process is kind of hard to grade because we don't know, like, we know that they're in on Donovan to some degree. We know that they're in on Gino to some degree. We know that they're in on, or they were in at some point on Ketel Marte to some degree, and maybe Nico Horner now as well.
Yeah.
And that's all great. That's great process, but you have to land it for it to count. So certainly better than last offseason, but that's really not saying much. So
so if we're ranking them, I'd go 21-22, 2018-19.
Yep. 23-24 is number 3 for me.
Yeah, even though that offseason had a lot of bad as well.
It was still good process. They were aggressive.
Yeah. And then probably 22-23, the Teoscar.
Yeah.
Yep. Even though, Wong and Pollock that
sure
went sideways,
again,
but like the process behind those moves.
Right.
We're talking about process, not results here. So 22-23 was fine. I wish that they would have gotten more aggressive than they did after breaking the drought, but whatever.
Sure. Then I'd say this offseason, as it stands right now, is right after that one. Then probably 2021, like after the pandemic season.
What did they even do that off season?
I don't
can't
know,
even remember.
But it wasn't. There's no way it was as bad as what they did last winter, which would be dead last. So
There you go. Yeah, 24-25 is the worst one. Even though that Polo wound up actually working out a lot.
Polo is probably the best offseason addition you've gotten out of all those, but doesn't matter. Like the process was so bad.
It was terrible. Yeah. The we're trying to give Carlos Santana basically 2 years, and then he signs with Cleveland, and that basically derails our whole offseason plan like that.
The only thing you need to know about what last offseason was is that not getting Carlos Santana ruined their entire plan. That's the only information I need to know to say that is the worst offseason we've ever covered, without question.
Yeah. Peter wants to know, from a practical and logistical standpoint, isn't it best to trade Logan Gilbert now? It was March 10th, 2022, when the last lockout ended with about 250 free agents unsigned and players were reporting to spring training 2 days later. I'd call the Mets about Tong and Sproat, Cubs for Shaw and Conrad. The problem with trading Gilbert right now, though, is that you're trying to capitalize on being, 8 outs away from going to the World Series. Like, you are going to set yourself back in the short term, at least, if you trade Logan Gilbert, no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the high likelihood, at least. Like maybe Tong and Sproat, like if you got both of them from New York and a Gilbert deal, like maybe those guys both pop and, your rotation actually isn't that much worse. And maybe it's even, on the off chance, maybe it's better. But like the likelihood there is that you're going to get worse in the short term. And in a year where you have to take advantage of what you just did in the year prior.
Yeah, like logistically speaking, the best time to trade somebody is when they have 2 full years of club control that winter. That's when you kind of cross the event horizon, whatever you want to call it. And it's like, now it's diminishing return if we trade him after this point. But again, you have to look at it through the context of where is the team at? And is there a possibility the team trades Logan Gilbert and gets better in 2026? Probably not.
Yeah.
And I also think obviously what also has to come into play a little bit here is that do you think you can re-sign him? And it seems to me the Mariners think they have a better shot of re-signing him than they do George Kirby. And so plus, not that this matters a ton. We know the Mariners aren't afraid to do things that will upset players, but you just gave Cal Raleigh a huge extension. You basically made him the captain of your team, and you want to trade his best friend less than a year later.
Yeah.
That's not going to play that well.
After you had these long conversations about what your future plan is with them and all this stuff.
We're going for the World Series, and then you trade your best pitcher. It's really tough to sell that. And, again, is there a path where they could do that and it makes sense and it ends up working out? Sure. But I think right now they're much better off just keeping him rolling with, running to the risk that he doesn't sign an extension. And, for all we know, they've already had talks. Typically, I think these things happen at spring training, though. But they've maybe have already had talks and they're already kind of liking the direction they're going. But yeah, logistically speaking, this is the time to trade anybody. If you want maximum value or close to maximum value, you trade them the winter that they are entering the final 2 years of club control. Every pitch he throws for you next year, his value goes down a little bit. But you're okay with that because again, you're not trying to maximize the value of a Gilbert return package right now. You're trying to maximize the number of wins he gives you because every win you get with him right now could push you to the World Series. And so that's the priority. But yeah, logistically, it would make the most sense to trade him right now. But
I mean, the other thing we should also,
no.
I mean, the other thing that we should mention here though is is the elbow impacting any of this? Is the elbow impacting extension talks? Has the elbow impacted how maybe the Mariners view their ability to trade him? What they could realistically get for him. Because that's still kind of a lingering thing, right? Because typically elbow issues just don't magically go away, and he didn't have surgery to address it, as far as we know.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, gut call. I think Logan signs an extension. I'm not saying it's going to be this winter, but I think he eventually signs an extension.
Yeah, I think Logan Gilbert's going to be a Mariner long term. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, we have a Patreon. It's called Control the Zone. And on there, we talk Mariners, we talk Seahawks, talk all that good stuff. For more information, go to patreon.com/Control the Zone. Link in the description of this episode. Nate wants to know, hey guys, my heart hurts every time you say Kirby won't be extended and will inevitably be traded. I love Logan, Woo, and Bryce. No disrespect to Castillo, but Kirby's my guy. Why are you so convinced that he doesn't want to be here? It's just picking up on context clues. Whenever it gets speculated about future extensions, particularly from the local reporters, Logan Gilbert's name comes up all the time. George Kirby's name never comes up. I think there's something to that. I don't know for sure. And, for all we know, maybe they wind up trading Logan. They get to a place where it's all right, an extension with Logan isn't going to happen. Let's trade him. And then they pivot towards, hey, well, let's just give George the money we're going to give Logan. Maybe that's actually in the cards for them. But, in the past, George has talked about how much he grew up being a Yankees fan. He to pitch at Yankee Stadium and all that, there's stuff like that. It feels like, eventually he just feels like a guy that would want to go test the market and eventually probably sign, a huge deal with the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Phillies or someone like that. That's just how it feels. That's more vibes based than anything, but that's just kind of the general vibe that I get from George. And then again, it's the context clues of just you never really hear about it. You never really hear about an extension with George Kirby. You never really hear his name come up in that context. So yeah, I don't know, maybe he's here long term. That would be great. I love George Kirby. I'm a big fan, but it just kind of feels like of the four guys, he's probably the most likely to wind up going elsewhere here in the next couple of years.
I would agree. It just doesn't seem like, just based on, again, we don't know for sure. He could sign an extension tomorrow for all we know. But it just to me seems like the Mariners know that there's a time clock on George, and they have a pretty good sense that he will not entertain an extension with them, and they think Logan will, and so they're not going to be able to pay both. That's just the unfortunate reality of it. They could pay both, but they're not going to. And but so
are we convinced that they would? No, absolutely not.
No, we have no reason to suspect that they will.
Yeah.
So if they're only going to pay one, they're going to focus on the guy right now who's closer to free agency and the one that they feel like is most likely to re-sign with them anyways. And so they're going to put all their eggs in the Gilbert basket. And like Ty said, maybe if they become convinced they can't get an extension with Gilbert done, maybe they trade him and then offer the same contract to Kirby. But is Kirby going to take it? Probably not. So it's just kind of one of those things where it's I don't think Kirby views Seattle as a long-term home for him. I think it's the place where he established himself. I think it's the place where, he broke into the big leagues and all of that. And so I'm not saying that he doesn't want to be here. He doesn't care. It's just that he would rather be somewhere else. And I think when you look at the places he'd rather be, they are teams that are going to spend big money on a pitcher like Kirby, and the Mariners just aren't going to do that. So, yeah, I think that's probably why.
All right, our last question of the day comes from Absolute Unit, who wants to know, and this is a two-parter. Do you think the Mariners could ever have a film made about them? Thinking along the lines of Moneyball, Angels in the Outfield, Mr. 3000, etc. And then what one player would be the most Tommy La Stella signing possible?
Major league deal. Might not be worthy of us even doing an emergency pod for. Although we did.
Andrew Knizner.
I mean, kind of, yeah, but like Knizner actually kind of makes sense on the roster because he's the backup catcher. So
yeah,
who is that guy?
Catcher,
I don't
so
know.
whatever.
I don't know. I'll have to think about that one. Could the Mariners ever have a movie made about them? Sure. I don't know what the subject matter would be, but sure. I mean, Seattle is kind of a go-to place. Like Seattle, like I think the movie is more than likely like the hotshot Yankee or whatever gets busted for something, and the Yankees trade him off to Seattle because Seattle's Siberia, like that type of thing. And he teaches the hapless Mariners how to win. If you're looking for like a biopic, I don't think you're going to see the Mariners as a subject matter, at least not a good biopic. So
I feel like the Mariners would get like a major league style movie about them, about like, haha, look how inept they are, and then they you know they turn into something, like I think it would be more like that.
If you're thinking a Moneyball type of movie, I doubt it. I highly doubt it. Although if Michael Lewis wants to write one of his books about the Mariners and how they've turned this around, then that'd be great.
I mean, I am so down for a movie that romanticizes the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, no. I think if the Mariners are ever like featured in a movie, like they're the main team of a baseball movie, it'll be in the sense of like, this guy was sent there as punishment because Seattle's because even now, like people are like, where did so-and-so? Oh, they moved up to Seattle. Like it's just so inconveniently far away from everywhere else and blah, blah, blah. Like you guys know the tropes by now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see something like that happening. They do feature pretty prominently in, was it Little Big League or whatever? Is that what it's called?
With Griffey.
12-year-old manager. And Randy.
Yeah.
So they feature pretty prominently there. And I stand by this. The movie Major League in spring training, they have a guy who's very clearly supposed to be Edgar wearing a Mariners uniform. See, the Major League people knew Edgar was going to be a Hall of Famer before he ever was one. But yeah, I could see them doing something like that. Sure. I think going back to the other one, I think Hunter Renfroe would be like the Tommy La Stella.
He's still in the league.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you'd be like, okay, I guess. So yeah.
I'm going to go with Yoán Moncada as the Tommy La Stella.
I just think that's too good of a player.
There aren't that many options here, man. I'm looking at the free agent list.
Hunter Renfroe, where you're like, I mean, he was okay a few years ago.
Did he play this year in 2025?
So
I don't even remember him playing. So like that doesn't, I don't know.
Maybe Starling Marte.
Is he a free agent? I thought he was still on the Mets. Oh.
No, he's a free agent.
Yeah, maybe, I guess.
Chas McCormick.
Michael Conforto. But like they're not gonna sign a left-handed hitting outfielder. So
no.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Moncada is the call. I think that's the call. It's not a perfect comp. Like, don't get me wrong. It's nowhere near.
I like mine better because
it's nowhere near a perfect.
Renfroe's at least hits right-handed. I feel like that gives him an edge. But yeah, whatever.
And then as far as the movie goes, well, you and I have talked about like a parodied version of like the Mariners front office. It would literally be The Office, but it would be called The Front Office.
Yeah.
Right. And it would be the Mariners, but it would be like a parody version of Jerry and Justin and John Stanton.
This is what we have to resort to in the winter, guys, when the Mariners don't do anything. It's like, I guess we'll just cast The Front Office
Yeah.
And we'll staff it up here. But yeah. If the Mariners are ever featured prominently, or they are the main source of an actual movie, like a movie that goes into the theater, not just a fan-made movie or whatever, it would be in the comedy genre, unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately.
I think so. Maybe if they win a World Series in the next couple of years, maybe someone would want to do like a Hollywood type of story based on that.
I think, yeah, maybe I can see that. I mean, heck, Cal Raleigh is such a big figure right now, just like the sports zeitgeist in general.
Yeah,
that maybe if he wins the World Series this year, they'll get a movie or something like that.
We get a Cal Raleigh biopic.
Who would play Cal Raleigh?
Chris Pratt.
Glenn Powell, of course. He's in everything.
Timothy Chalamet. Josh Brolin.
Brolin is going to play Service.
I'm trying to think of like who are all these actors that just are in everything. Samuel L. Jackson as Cal Raleigh. Hell yeah. Well, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For Colby, Patnode, I'm Dane Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.